You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholics, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a trunk, just like Jim. It's more than life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more than life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club, like some bottles, impress them girls. It's more than life.
Fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And who dat? And I say good evening there, but it's more like morning, good morning, or good afternoon, because we're sitting here around 10:30 a.m. Apologize because I wasn't able to get you the injury report Friday, but we're here on Saturday morning trying to knock this podcast out before college football starts. But anyways, we're bringing you some more main course. And I'm talking about the New Orleans Saints at Chicago Bears, and that's the Sunday coming up, October 19th, 12 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Eastern time at Soldiers Field. And before I delve too deep into the injury report, which I'll be probably talking more about this as we go along, but I don't know if I've ever watched a game, experienced a game, or did research on a game of one that has so many angles as what you could call like this is a revenge game for this guy. This is a revenge game for this guy. This is a revenge game for this guy. And there's multiple angles coming from the Saints and the Bears. But of course, we want the Saints revenge game to come true. We had kind of a Devin Gotchu Patriots revenge game last week, and he ended up being one of the better defenders on the team, but the Saints couldn't pull the win out for him. But for revenge game, people listed here. So we got a revenge game for basically Saints to Dennis Allen. He's the defensive coordinator of the Bears now. But maybe if we delve even more deep into that, maybe it's Kendre Miller to Dennis Allen, because Kendre Miller, his whole time as here playing here when Dennis Allen was here, he got in Dennis Allen's doghouse somehow. I guess it was just the nagging minor injuries and stuff, and just Dennis Allen was like, all right, you're done for the season. I'm not putting up with that. So a big game from Kendre Miller would kind of be fun and would kind of be nice. But at the same time, we're talking player to coach, but we can also go coach to coach because Ben Johnson was like really the hot commodity of head coaches, So you could be looking at Kellen Moore, maybe kind of the upset, kind of wanting to upset him to show like, oh, you guys should have waited until the Super Bowl was over to hire me instead of Ben Johnson. And then so those are two there, and then even Spencer Rattler to Caleb Williams. So they were both quarterbacks at Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley. And then I remember watching like the first game, Caleb Williams came in the game. Shortly after he came in the game, he had like a 60-yard read option, like run play, where he ran for 60 yards and a touchdown. And like at that moment, we knew if you were watching Oklahoma or you know college football at all, we knew there's a good chance we're probably not going to see Spencer Rattler again. And then of course he went to South Carolina, the Gamecocks, and so you could easily look at Spencer Rattler wanting to have a revenge game against Caleb Williams, because how that all played out. That definitely cost Spencer Rattler some money and some draft positioning. I guarantee if he would have finished his career out as the starter at Oklahoma and Lincoln Riley wouldn't have left to go to USC, that he would have been a lot higher of a pick than picked in the fifth round. But nonetheless, he's a Saint. But anyways, we'll get more into the revenge game because there's so many angles we're coming from. So as we go along, but let's get into this. Let's get into the injury report that the Saints had because honestly, probably really just need to do the Bears injury report because the Saints don't really have much of one. But anyways, let's get into it. So can I get a menu? And so first thing we're talking about the Saints health. We kind of want to whisper it. We don't want to be too outgoing and telling on it because you know how that goes. Before we know it, half the squad, 11 of the 22 starters will be on this list. But at the moment, I don't know if I can even remember the last time that the Saints had full participation in a in a practice on an injury report. So this is just odd. This is odd, and it's odd, and at the same time, it's annoying. It's oddly annoying because the Saints are as healthy as they've been in like a decade, but they're not very good. you know, Man, would have loved to have had this type of health during that 17 to 2020, 2021 type of stretch. Yeah, even in the 2021 type of stretch. If you would have had a healthy Jameis Winston the entire season, that dog piece of garbage, Devin White, pulling him down with a collar, horse collar tackle. But yeah, it'd have been great to have been that healthy during that range. I think the Saints would have maybe gone a little farther in the playoffs in some of those playoff appearances, and maybe even got another NFC champion or a Super Bowl appearance if they'd have had the type of health that they're having now. And it's kind of odd because yeah, they got a lot of young players on this roster, but they got some old players too that you'd think would be popping up on the injury report, even though they've been Iron Men pretty much their whole career. But you'd think you'd start seeing like Alvin Kamara missing a game, or Demario Davis, or or uh, or Cameron Jordan, but even they're healthy. But let's get into this. So this is the Saints injury report. There's not much of one, but just talking about Alvin Kamara, I've been dealing with a little bit of an ankle injury, I guess, that he sustained in the game against the Giants. But so running back Alvin Kamara, ankle injury, but that never was looked at as really serious or severe or anything, just some soreness. Ankle didn't practice Wednesday, but was limited Thursday, full on Friday, no game status. Our favorite defensive player, our favorite defensive back, our favorite cornerback, cornerback Ike Yadam, hamstring, didn't practice Wednesday, was limited Thursday and full Friday, but is listed as questionable. And even in talking with the media, kind of talking to Kellen Moore about it, it kind of seemed like he was leaning more to continuing the start the young guys and just game planning, future outlook. That would be a smart thing to do. One, because your younger guys are getting more reps and getting experience, but also you're not risking a fourth round comp pick by playing Ike Yadam, who might be a little bit better than Quincy Riley and maybe some of the young guys. I wouldn't even say Alontae Taylor or Kool-Aid McKinstry, but Matt might be a little bit better than than him just because than Quincy Riley just because he's a veteran. But it's not worth a fourth round pick. We could get a fourth round pick defensive back that's better than him in the 26th draft. So having him more as just a backup, emergency backup, or maybe playing a little bit on special teams, which the Saints need as much help as they can, at least with the return games and that. But I'm good on seeing Ike Yadam anymore this season. I wish he would just leave the injury report or just go on season IR so I don't have to continuously repeat myself every time his name pops up. See, and now we have a wide receiver, Chris Olave, hip, early in the week. Yeah, early in the week, Chris Olave and Alontae Taylor both popped up on the injury report with limited practice, and there were some rustlings that's maybe they're trying to kind of keep him out of practice or limit him to practice because they're looking for trade partners for them. But he was limited, so he was limited Wednesday, but then he was full Thursday and Friday, and then has no game status. So I assume that means Chris Olave is going to play. So hopefully he can improve. I've heard some good interviews from him where he's talking about like it hits my hands, I need to catch it. Like he knows that, he understands. So it'd be really nice if Chris Olave could work himself out of this bad drop stretch that he's in, and maybe be lessen the drops and maybe increase the yards after catch would be kind of nice. I understand he's trying to avoid getting another concussion or anything like that, but man, this catching it and just falling to the ground, or catching it and skipping out of bounds, after a while that gets old, and it's an example of a player probably not being a number one wide receiver, because number one wide receivers don't do that. All right. Then we have a cornerback, Lante Taylor, knee, also a player that's swirling and rumblings about a possible trade partner, player, asset. But he had a knee, was limited Wednesday, but then was full Thursday and Friday, and then no game status. And then defensive tackle, John Ridgeway III, even though he hasn't been activated for a game yet, he was dealing with a shoulder where he's coming off of partial return IR. As was dealing with a shoulder, was full Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and not sure if he's going to be activated yet. But even though he's full all week and full on Friday, still listed as questionable. And then defensive tackle Devin Gotchu, uh, he's just dealing with veteran rest day, basically. He was see, not yeah, non injury related uh, slash rest, but practiced Wednesday, and then didn't practice on Thursday, which he's been doing that like all year basically. But then was full Friday and then has no game status. So you look at the Saints injury report for Friday, it's FP all the way down, full practice. So, hey, we talk about the season being kind of rough and how the Saints have been the past 3 or 4 years. Even though this is at the same time kind of annoying, having a bad team being extremely healthy, you still got to take your wins where you can get them. So the Saints are healthy. Hopefully, once they add some more talent to this team, Kellen Moore gets real deep into the type of drafts and players he wants here. Hopefully, that this injury luck can kind of carry over into the next couple of years would be nice, and so on. So that's the Saints injury report. There really isn't one. But now on to the Bears. The Bears are coming off of a short week here. Because they played on Monday night, but had an impressive win over Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. Man, that last drive fumble by Jaden Daniels just gave it away. All they needed to do was get it. They were up by what, 1 or 2 points. All they needed to do was get like another first down or two, and the Commanders won that game. But man, so sometimes that's what penalties are made on, is just luck basically. But the Bears, they're beat up a little bit more than the Saints are. It'd be hard to find a team that isn't beat up more as is isn't beat up more than the Saints, or is not beat up more than the Saints. Or isn't beat up more than the Saints. Yeah, that's a confusing one. That do not have as many healthy players is more like it. But let's get into their injury report. So we have O lineman Jonah Jackson, who I think that's a starting offensive lineman for them, dealing with the ankle injury. Didn't practice Wednesday, but was full Thursday and Friday, and then no game status. So I imagine he's going to play. Defensive lineman, a very familiar name, and Grady Jarrett, who was a star defensive player and defensive tackle for the Falcons for the majority of his career, but now plays for the Bears. He's dealing with a knee injury. Didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday, and is limited Friday and then is listed as questionable. I would be perfectly fine with Grady Jarrett not playing. And then you have a wide receiver, DJ Moore, hip/groin, didn't practice Wednesday, was limited Thursday, and was full on Friday, no game status. So we'll be seeing DJ Moore. And then kicker, their starting kicker, Cairo Santos, right thigh, didn't practice all week and is out. Man, it'd be nice if this game came down to field goal kick, and we got another double doink from the Bears would be nice, and they lose by just a point or so, like lose by 1 or 2 points off of a missed field goal at the end of the game. That would be nice. That would be an exciting way for the Saints to win. It'd be a different way for how most of the Saints games have turned out this year. And then you have a starting linebacker, Noah Sewell. I think his brother, Nephi Sewell, plays for the Saints. But he's I think Nephi, he's just like a special teams backup. But Noah, he's a starter, kind of like Penei Sewell, the tackle for the Lions. But he didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday, but was full Friday, and he is out. So there's at least two starters there. You got your starting kicker, which could be big in a close game scenario. That could be big, not having your starting kicker, and then a linebacker. But talking about the linebacker and then Grady Jarrett, I think that's been kind of an issue for the Bears in regards to run stopping. I think they've allowed like close to 6 yards a carry this year. So it'd be nice to see the Saints take care of that. And if they don't have Noah Sewell or Grady Jarrett, that'd be just fine with me. And now we're getting into some injured reserve players designated to return, kind of similar to John Got You, even though they have different symbols here. Instead of like two asterisks, they got the two upside down V's, whatever you call that. D lineman Austin Booker, knee was full all week, but is listed as questionable. Imagine he plays or is activated possibly. Running back Travis Homer, that's like their second string, third down back to DeAndre Swift. Calf was full all week, but is listed as questionable. I don't see any reason they wouldn't activate him either. And then linebacker Amin Baminga, knee, didn't practice Wednesday and was limited Thursday and is full on Friday and listed as questionable. But because he didn't, well, I guess he did. He was fine on Wednesday. Wasn't listed on there at all. So I imagine will be returning, designated to return. And then running back, probably the most important player on this list, the best starter, best player, I would say. Running back DeAndre Swift, who I think had a 100-yard game against Washington on Monday. Is DeAndre Swift dealing with a groin? I guess no one really practiced. I'm having these like designations for like Wednesday, but teams that play on Monday don't practice on Wednesday. So showing that he wasn't limited or didn't practice, that doesn't mean necessarily that his injury happened in practice, because they didn't practice on Wednesday. So that could be stuff that came from the game, but shows that he wasn't on the injury report on Wednesday, but was limited Thursday, limited Friday, and is listed as questionable. So that's a interesting one. A groin injury is a serious injury for a running back. I think he just rushed for 100 yards and a touchdown against Washington. I would be perfectly fine with him not playing as well. But those are the injury reports there. Like I said, the Bears are obviously more beat up than the Saints, who aren't beat up like at all. But let's now then get into MVPs and hot takes and picks and scores here. I'm just blown away by the injury report. Maybe that's why I didn't do the podcast on Friday with my scheduled timing for it, because there was no podcast to do. But there's a lot more to talk about. So we mentioned like the revenge games and things of that nature. When it comes to the Bears, obviously they're not like up there with like the Falcons and the Vikings and some of those teams like that, the 49ers, teams like that in regards to like you dislike them or you hate these teams and stuff like that. But man, it's a little hard to like still hate the Bears, even though this is why I hate them still, is because of the NFC Championship game in 2006. It would have been, I guess that it would have been like in 2000, that would have been like in January of 2007. But yeah, the Saints looking good in that game originally had like the what it was like the will route or the screen play to Reggie Push, who took it for like 80 yards and a touchdown, and he did the Florida leap into the end zone, and I think that gave the Saints the lead for a moment, and then they got blown out for the rest of the game. They lost like what 39-19 or something in that game. So as a Saints fan, you definitely don't forget any moments where your team is all on the cusp of a Super Bowl, and that'd have been wild for the Saints. Probably would have got blown out by the 2006 uh, 2006 Colts, anyways. But still, it had been another appearance for Drew Brees and the Saints, and just anymore, he's helps with the greatest of all time conversations with Drew Brees. But yeah, so I just don't really like the Bears either. But I was gonna say before I got into that, I was gonna say it's almost kind of hard to dislike them because this is a crazy fact that came up recently, and just in regards to the amount of times that the Saints have played the Bears, I would have thought that they would have lost to them more recently, but they haven't lost. They're on an 8-game winning streak against the Bears, the Chicago Bears, and you have to go back all the way to like uh, December 2008 for the last time the Saints lost to the Bears. So that's wild to me. I don't know if the Saints are good enough, or if the Bears are good enough or if the Saints are bad enough to break that streak. But it would be nice to continue that. At least you have something that you can hold on an individual NFL team. But that kind of goes into my revenge game. The 8-game winning streak, and the Chicago Bears and the fans talking bad about after Hurricane Katrina and stuff like that. That's just karma, and they're cursed now for that. So to keep that narrative going, I would be appreciative of that. But let's get into MVPs and hot takes and stuff here now. So my MVP for this is going to be an offensive MVP, and this goes totally back to the whole revenge game angle that we've started the podcast talking about. But Kendra Miller, like if Kendra Miller, I just like to see Kendra Miller ball out regardless. Like at this point in their careers, I'd much rather see Kendra Miller have 150-yard scrimmage game, like 100 yards on the ground, 50 yards receiving, and a touchdown over Alvin Kamara, because we've seen it, and we kind of in the process of moving in a different direction, a youth movement, and so Kendra Miller was drafted by the Dennis Allen head coaching regime, but then it just seemed like Kendra Miller could never get right, whether it's Oshner, the health and wellness programs and stuff that they had, just in training staff and stuff like that. It just seemed like Kendra Miller could never shake that nagging injury that he was always dealing with, and it got to the point in what I guess the 2024 season where he Kendra Miller had like an injury that was literally, at least from his perspective, it was considered like a day-to-day injury, and then just out of nowhere, Dennis Allen put him on IR, which like I can't remember if that ended his season or it forced him to miss the next 4 games, even though it was something minor. So Dennis Allen just couldn't uh, couldn't make good on the Kendra Miller pick. And so Kendra Miller, I hope he's coming into this game super motivated. I said 150 scrimmage yards, but man, I'd be good enough with just 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. I think that would be enough. And I would hope that his teammates, his offensive line understand the moment. He understands the moment and just put, just a little bit more effort for trying to upset Dennis Allen and maybe make him look like a clown. I hope so. This is something I've kind of made up in my head a little bit, but I hope there's like a running play, at least a 10-yard running play or a play where they pick up a first down and Kendra Miller runs out of bounds. I hope he runs out of bounds kind of where Dennis Allen is. I hope he gets like face mask to face with him on a sideline moment, and then that's it. Not no pushing or shoving or big brawl breaks out. But if he got like face mask to face with Dennis Allen after like a first down run or a 10-yard run, that would be amazing. Like I honestly, over the Saints winning and Kendra Miller running for 100 yards, I could probably do with that. I'd probably turn that off and just go to sleep for Sunday because that'd be about all I could wish for. So Kendra Miller, MVP, 100 yards and a touchdown would be enough to take that moniker for this game. And then for hot takes, this kind of goes kind of right back into the Kendra Miller and the Bears not having a good run defense. I'd just like to see the Saints run for 150 yards or more. But just even if they run for 150 yards, doesn't mean they're going to win. I mean, they rushed for 190 against the Bills and still lost. But still, I see them running for 150 yards. And then this is kind of where we're kind of getting kind of negative and kind of getting brought down to earth a little bit here. Spencer Rattler, he's going to get sacked 2 times. And the reason I say that comes right back around kind of to the whole Dennis Allen scenario and him playing for the Bears now. Spencer Rattler, when Dennis Allen was his head coach, there were a couple games where Spencer Rattler like really looked like good in some of these games in his first couple starts. And one of the ones I kind of go back to was I think the first game he played in against the Buffalo, not Buffalo, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where he scored like 24 points in the first half, and I think 24 points came like in the second quarter, and then after that, Raheem Morris, the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just pretty much blitzed like all out blitzes in the second half, and just Spencer Rattler just didn't know what to do. He just looked so out of sorts and running into sacks and throwing bad passes and just looking terrible. And I think they pretty much got shut out in the second half. Maybe got a field goal and lost to the Buccaneers. Pretty much got blown out, even though they scored 24 points in the second quarter. So I see that kind of happening in this game. I think Dennis Allen, he knows Spencer Rattler. He went up against him in practice for an entire season, so he knows Spencer Rattler's tendencies. I think Spencer Rattler is obviously better than he was when Dennis Allen was the coach, because you got a defensive head coach, but now we have an offensive head coach, and we've seen like some sparkles and some glistens from Spencer Rattler and his growth. But still, I think Dennis Allen knows enough about Spencer Rattler that that might be kind of a similar game plan or how this kind of unfolds a little bit, which we'll get kind of more into the pick and score for it. But yeah, I look at Spencer Rattler getting sacked at least 2 times in this game, maybe more, honestly, and especially if Dennis Allen comes in here with a good game plan, I could definitely see it happening. And then on to picks and scores. So I think the Saints are going to look good in this game early on, so they may go up 7-0 or 10-3 in this game. But like I said, in the second half, and Spencer Rattler is going to be the one that looks good and is leading the Saints to that first 7-10 points, and Saints actually having the lead for once in few games or so. But yeah, so yeah, the Saints may get 10 points in the first half, maybe 17, but then that's all going to kind of come to an end once Dennis Allen starts all out blitzing him and turn Spencer Rattler back into 2024 Spencer Rattler or Dennis Allen regime Spencer Rattler. So I think it's all going to come down to that, and uh, don't really like it because it's Dennis Allen, but can't say I really hate Dennis Allen. I definitely have more hate just for the Chicago Bears than I do him singly, and I can respect him. Not a great head coach, but I, he's he's easily a top five, top 10 defensive coordinator. So that's how I see this game playing out. And I was talking how the Saints may have the lead in this game. This is kind of a added sprinkle to it because the score is the same as the Saints 2020 playoff loss to the Buccaneers, saying 30-20 Bears, and this is going to play out like kind of just like that playoff game did. The Saints are going to have the lead, or the lead's going to be within just 3 or less points, and the Saints are going to be driving to get some more points, try to take the lead back. And we're going to get another fumble from Jared Cook Jr. or Jared Cook Light, and Juwan Johnson fumbling pretty much the game away at that moment, just like he did last week, and just like Jared Cook did against the the Buccaneers in 2020. So I'm picking the Bears to win this 30-20 Bears, and uh, so you can see that even with the Saints scoring 20 points, and that's why I picked them to score 20 points, because they haven't even come close to beating anyone scoring less than 21 points this year. But yeah, I can still pick these. Kendra Miller can still ball out, and the Saints could still easily lose. They just did it, and with a similar score. That was like 3 weeks ago against the Bills. They lost 31-19. So seriously, the Saints could rush for 200 yards and still lose, especially if Dennis Allen has cranked up the heat on Spencer Rattler, and I see that happening. I see Spencer Rattler looking good in the first half, and then that heat gets cranked all the way up, and just see all out blitzes, and this game kind of collapses onto itself, which may be at least competitive or fun to watch maybe the first half. But the Bears are definitely more talented, just pretty much everywhere, and definitely at skills positions. But it'd be awesome. It would be, in hindsight, it would be awesome for Spencer Rattler to get slight revenge over Caleb Williams. But I just don't see it happening. But anyways, I think that's about all I have for you. So who dat? And can I get a check, please?